And hello again, friends. To start off today, St. Patrick's Day. Today's presentation is entitled Coroners, Crustaceans, Chemtrails, and Criminal Christians. And I hope the title has you intrigued. The subtext is, let's pull this up. Subtext is our weekly roundup of current and topical issues in context of an understanding of the original principle. And the original principle is represented by the logo on the top right there, my friends. And if you're watching our presentations, the importance of this symbolism should be starting to take hold. Okay, so let's start as we mean to go on with a happy St. Patrick's Day. There's my wonderful son, Danny, my son, I might add, and my bodyguard. As those of you who have known me in my journeys through the despicable and utterly corrupt Irish courts will know that eventually we had business cards printed up for Danny, and he would accompany me to the court hearings. And in fact, he was a far better bodyguard than all of the big muscle-bound, well-intentioned paddies that would normally come along with us, because, of course, the guards wouldn't think twice about getting stuck in there. But when you have a wonderful soul like Danny there looking after his dad, things are different. All right, let's get straight into it today, guys. So here we go. First of all, I finished the presentation last week with a short talk about this initiative, which has been launched in Ireland. And the initiative is called Independent Minds. And I didn't really give it enough time last week. So I just want to reiterate, guys, that there's this initiative whereby people who have been the victims of unethical, unlawful, and indeed criminal behavior by the banks, by the vulture funds, by individuals who are in cahoots with the Irish politicians and so like, and who have lost properties in particular. They've come up with this idea after many other failed and thwarted attempts to get justice, that they put boots in buildings. Okay, and mid left there, if you see the text there, guys, I'll see if I can just pull that up so we can read it. Using boots in buildings, we want to expose corruption in connection with this premises, that's that particular premises, but they're covering several premises now, folks. And the extensive connected portfolio, whilst using the platform to push for much needed political change in Ireland. Other locations countrywide are in the pipeline. Now, to be frank, I'm not 100% sure what details I can and cannot give out. I don't obviously want to say something that will jeopardize any of the team's operations. But they've asked me to encourage people who might be looking for a resolution to their property-related problems to get in touch, because the general idea here is that these lay people, ordinary people who feel they've been defrauded, cheated, ripped off, and so on and so forth, had the properties taken off them unlawfully. Because there's a difference between criminal activity and civil activity, what they're doing is using the civil law book, if you like, to retake ownership or possession, if you like, of some of these disputed properties. And once they've done so, and the people running this operation know what they're doing, they're convinced that they know what they're doing. I hope it's the case, because we've seen far too many people fall afoul of corrupt practices by the courts, by the guards, by the county registrars, legal firms, and all the rest of it. But the idea is that these people take possession of these disputed properties, and having done so, the only way, because it's not a criminal offence, it's not criminal trespass or anything like that. In other words, there's paperwork set up first. And by taking possession of the properties in a civil manner, the only way the opposition, the banks, the vulture funds, or these corrupt officials can get access to the building is to apply for a High Court order. Now, even with our corrupt Irish courts, getting a High Court order at least provides the owners of the property the opportunity to challenge the right of the opposition to actually apply for the order, and in doing so, it is hoped that the fraud will be exposed, and that the fear of having this fraud exposed in the public domain will be sufficient to stop the fraudulent opposition from trying to retake the properties. And I've been told, by the way, if you want to find them on Facebook, there are 2 or 3 Facebook accounts with Independent Mind headings. The one you're looking for is that one there, with whom it may concern, okay? I've been informed, for example, that the Strokestown, everybody in Ireland, certainly, and even possibly worldwide, should remember the Strokestown event. I believe it was 2018, when that very modest-looking building you see in the background there, which is falling into serious disrepair, was the object or the subject of a very violent, first of all, an attempted possession by a corrupt county registrar, that's a court official, who forged documents. Then they hired mercenaries from the north of Ireland to come in, and these were you couldn't have written this script. People wouldn't believe it if it was written in a script. Mercenaries and ex-British soldiers from and ex-paramilitaries and UDF guys from the north of Ireland came down, jackbooted, knuckled gloves, black uniforms and all the rest of it, and basically got stuck into the residence, even though they were being told the order, the so-called order of the court was a fabrication, was unlawful. And there was an awful fracas. People got injured. And then a few days or weeks later, was it days? I think it was only days later. The guards were there, the police were there. They just stood by and let these bully boys beat up the residents and everything. And then there was a convoy of concerned citizens, I think is the best way to explain it, turned up in the middle of the night to take the property back. And, there was, it's all over the news. 3 of those gentlemen are now serving time after a very corrupt sham of a trial, where then one of the main instigators, this Fintan Murphy, county registrar in County Mayo, now retired, an absolute epitome of sleaze and corruption and toadying up to the establishment. He forged the documents to make it all happen. He went off on holiday during the court holiday and was never available to give evidence, and now there's three men in prison serving 15 years in, like I said, what turned out to be a farce of a court case, but that's Ireland for you. Anyway, I've been informed that this could be one of the properties earmarked, because it's very high profile, earmarked for repossession, lawful repossession. And I think that will definitely make headlines, given that there was such a hullabaloo about this at the time. But as you can see, it's been boarded up. It's a very modest little building. That's an Irish farmhouse, for those of you who aren't maybe familiar. Very modest little building, probably got 3 rooms in it. A main living room, probably stroke kitchen, and then a couple of bedrooms. That's probably it. It's on a farm, and they were forcibly evicted. But as you can see in the bottom picture there, the roof is falling in there in the front of the living room and all the rest of it. So they repossessed it, kicked a family out of there, and apparently have done nothing with it since. Just left it to rot. What's going on? Something's not right. And now on to the next, just go back there for a second, guys. So just to finish up on that. So those of you who have an interest, it's not going to cost you anything just to contact the lads at Independent Minds. There's the phone numbers, the email addresses and everything, and just find out firsthand how they may be able to help you, or indeed how you may be able to help them, because they're going to need bodies going into properties to hold them lawfully. Okay, right, guys, so on to the next. Now this is where we're talking about coroners. Okay, the heading on the left: Donald Trump grants asylum status to the Burke family on the grounds of religious persecution. We all know there was a fracas over in Washington at the one of the galas or something, because the Burkes went in and tried to challenge Micheál Martin over his treatment of one of their sons. Now, I'll just make this point here, guys, at the bottom there. Sean and Martina Burke, that's the parents. They have 10 children, if I get this right. Amy, Elijah, Enoch, Esther, Isaac, Jemima, Josiah, Karen, Kezia, and Simeon. And no doubt, if they were to have any more children, they'd probably be called Moses and Elijah or some such, And I mean, they're advertising the fact that they're biblical Christians. I think that's a fair way to say it. Now, I've got a handful of slides here about the Burkes. I'm just making a really solid point. I want people to understand this is how the system deals with those who get in its way. And because, as I explained in many of my videos and other posts, because the system is fundamentally, intrinsically, and institutionalized evil, right? By its very definition of evil and everything, it takes a while to explain it. But because it is evil, when you get righteous, determined, principled people, and the system tries to force them to do something that's against their principles, something has to give. And interestingly, the victory here is not in the unlikely possibility that the Burkes will ever win any of their court cases or anything like that, but it's in the exposure of the wickedness and the venal nature of many of the central characters in the system, not least of whom are these so-called judges. Mark Sanfey, top right, Raymond Groark on the left, Conor Dingham, and Vincent Dean. I say without fear of any contradiction by these miserable examples of humanity that they are a disgrace to the profession and to any sort of ethical, honest conduct. And hopefully one day, as the Burkes would say, they will be facing their own maker, and they will have to answer to the ultimate judge for what they have done. So now, this is Amy Burke, and sorry, not Amy, this is Jemima Burke. Now, I'm just making the point, as you can see here, guys, with these snapshots here. Coroner Pat O'Connor is the guy in the video on the left there, okay? Now, Jemima was outside a coroner's court. They were banned from going in. That was the first thing that was wrong, okay? They were prevented from going inside because the establishment knew that they would probably raise objections. There were some very suspicious deaths happened in Mayo University Hospital, and Jemima, God bless her, was outside and filmed some of the witnesses coming in and out. And when it came to filming this guy, Coroner Pat O'Connor, him and a guard both told her, you can't video me. I don't give you my permission, and all this sort of nonsense. And for those of you who may not be aware, it is utter nonsense. You can film anyone you want, anywhere you want, especially if you're a party to the conversation. You can record them secretly without them knowing and all that sort of stuff. There's no laws against it. This is all bull and intimidatory nonsense. But it was him, in fact, who said to Jemima, he called her the scum of the earth, amongst other things. But guess what? It was Jemima who got a conviction for threatening and abusive behavior, which literally did not happen. She was firm. She was resolute. She asked specific, direct questions. She warned O'Connor that he would at some point be facing his maker and will have to answer for his conduct and so on. Didn't swear. There's no physical, I think, but nevertheless, she got convicted. Why? Because she is a Burke, okay? And by a Burke, I mean the surname, of course, not the derogatory term, Burke. All right. Here again, we have Judge Vincent Dean. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get the right size picture up, But there at the bottom, you see it, Mayo Coroner shouts and curses at member of public outside. Did he get done? Not at all. He's one of the system. His brother is a judge as well, I think a High Court judge, Tony O'Connor. So now Jemima's got a criminal conviction. Now, I've been in this boat as well. As a matter of fact, we had dealings with Vincent Dean, top right, an absolute pathetic excuse of a man. Absolutely. Yeah, and listen, I'll say it to your face next time I see you as well, Vincent, as I did at Knock. when you're coming out of a church, and I asked you, oh my God, have you still got a job? Are you still a judge? Unbelievable. I won't go into the story about that, guys, but maybe another day. But he's another typical example of a toady of the system who gets rewarded for doing all sorts of dirt on the ordinary people by being awarded a judgeship after being the prosecuting attorney in Mayo for years. I know him personally. I know him very well. And like I said, the big mistake we all make, my friends, and this is my opinion. Yes, this is my opinion. But the big mistake we all make is just because these people swan around with titles and high-paying positions of power and authority does not actually mean that they are entitled to our respect. You judge them by what they do. It's by their fruits you shall know them. And that's straight out of the Bible, and Jesus said that. So these, I don't for a minute disguise my absolute contempt for these characters. That's these so-called judges, they're absolute parasites on honest society. And the minute they change their ways, I'd be the first to acknowledge it. But this is going on the behavior that I've seen and witnessed over 17 plus years in the Irish courts and everything. And it's Ireland. I've said it several times before. I believe Ireland actually is the most corrupt country in the world. It's partly because they're so clever at hiding it, right? There are other countries that are more obviously corrupt, but Ireland, and again, if you just look at who are the greatest nations, who have the highest level of debt, America has the highest level of debt. I think Ireland is actually number 3. You've got to ask yourself, what? A country with a population of only 6 million, and it's up there with China, and I can't remember who the first one was now, China and whatever. But how, and it's partly to do with all of this shadow banking and the despicable activities, underhanded financial dealings, which is why we've got all the pharmaceutical companies here anyway. So I'll just keep pumping on with the Burkes here, guys, because I just want to make, again, I'm trying to make a point. At the top, Amy Burke. Now, she was a solicitor in the top, arguably the top or largest anyway, a law firm in Ireland. I won't go on too much about this other than say I've had dealings with Arthur Cox as well. They're still signing their official papers with the signature of the founder, who has been dead for God knows how many years, 60, 70 years or something. He's been gone. Anyway, he's been gone a long time. I don't know exactly how long. But it says their careers with Arthur Cox, come and join us. What happened to Amy? She got fired. Internal dispute. I don't know the absolute details, but I do know that she's appealed against the Work Relations Committee, and she's gone into the High Court. And every time the system is crushing them, they're trying to crush this family. And don't forget, they're all homeschooled. They've all got sort of master's degrees and PhDs and top of the class debating societies, all this sort of stuff. They're an extremely high achieving family, and they were homeschooled by their own parents, right? Just goes to show, guys, And on top of all that, they've got this Christian ethos. The Irish system really is in trouble. Of course, their brother Enoch has been in jail for 500 plus days now. Sean Burke is the father. In one of these court appearances, there was a fracas. I think one of his sons and one of his daughters was physically dragged and bundled out of the court by guards on the orders of another imbecilic judge. Yeah, and on the way, as he reached out to try and assist, I think it was his wife at the time, try to help her, from being, he bumped into a small female guard. He bumped into her and she fell over. He got convicted of assault. They have to do a couple of months in prison, and so on and so forth. It's utterly ridiculous. But did the guards who threw the Burkes out out of the courtroom, did they get done for assault? No, they can't lay hands on you like that unless you're committing a crime. That's the law. But who cares, huh? So if you want to hear more, there's another one, Isaac on the right. He has a PhD, I think, in mathematics or something. That's right, at the University of Galway. But what happens? When you do a PhD, again, I don't want to drag this out too long, guys, because we've got a lot to cover today. When you do a PhD, you get to a certain point, and then your PhD has to be assessed. Now, that's only supposed to take 2 months. I think it's in this text here. It's only supposed to take 2 months. That's right. He submitted his thesis in January 2017, but his supervisor failed to organize a viva, it's called, with an external examiner. The guidelines state that a viva should take place within 2 months of the submission of a thesis. But even by July, he still hadn't been offered an opportunity. He ended up having to take that matter to a tribunal or to a court. It's the system all working together: universities, coroners' courts, the guards, the high court, senior law firms. And again, there's another one of the lads is a qualified barrister, but he can't actually get anyone to, he can't get anyone to allow him to do his, well, they call it deviling. It's like an apprenticeship as a barrister. Can't get anyone to take him on. They, and here again, and finally, I think this is the last one or second last one regarding this. This now, the family went to the synod of the Church of Ireland. Now, bear in mind, they're a Christian family, absolutely staunch Christians, and they run a Christian, their own little Christian academy, right? Which is how they do the homeschooling and everything, right? They turned up at the synod, and I can't remember now this bishop's name. I'm sorry, guys. I won't say what I think it is, but I might get it wrong. O'Connell. And anyway, let's leave it at that, because I should have written it down. But astonishingly, they just asked the simple question. They said, please tell us, do you support the biblical statement that there is only one, and God made them male and female, and so on and so forth. Very simple question. It's all due about the gay pride issue and the LGBTQT and the, transgender ideology and all that nonsense, which does run absolutely contrary to Christian scripture. It does. It's simple as that, guys. I'm not pontificating here or lecturing anyone. That's just a fact. All right. And then the other fact is that these characters can sit there dumb-faced. Some others in the audience, the mealy-mouthed fools, smirking, comfortable and safe in their rows, facing up at the bishop and everything, as the Burkes asked, what's going on? Please answer the question. No cursing or swearing. I mean, they were adamant and they were vociferous and everything, but no cursing or swearing, nothing like that. And then what do you get? This character, top right. I'd love to meet you one day, my friend. There wouldn't be, all that many years between us, but I'd like to see you put your hands on me like you did Mrs. Burke. Yeah? We'd soon find out the definition of assault. I'll tell you that. He was the first one. He was flicking at her and pushing her until her get out, move. He unplugged the speaker that they were using and stuff like that. All very petulant, nasty stuff. And this fool at the bottom, the one there at the bottom right, he's being held back by other people after he rugby tackled Mrs. Burke. He rugby tackled her and tried to, look at his face. He can't contain himself. This is the criminal Christians that I was talking about. And I hope nobody misunderstood. I certainly wasn't talking about the Burkes. I'm talking about these characters. Why? Because they're in a hierarchy again. If you remember this, I'm always going on about this, guys. They're in a hierarchy. And if you have a hierarchy, especially a large hierarchy, and the Church of Ireland is no different to big tobacco or big pharma or big government, you get a hierarchy, and the principles and the ethos changes from being good Christians to protect the system, protect the hierarchy. They have no choice, and they wouldn't be promoted into the position of bishop or archbishop unless they were willing to protect the institution. It's the same in the Catholic Church, and that's what we're witnessing, and that's what we've got to thank the Burkes for exposing the great lie. They're doing it in a manner that none of us should be in any doubt that the system is intrinsically evil. It's as simple as that. And these people are good. They're frustrated. Obviously, they're frustrated. The frustration comes out in their actions sometimes and in their manners. But you know what? I've yet to hear any one of them swear. Yeah, I've yet to hear any one of them go completely off script to say anything that isn't true or isn't biblical, for example. And here's again, this is the school where their brother Enoch, if you remember this story, the brother Enoch, who's in jail because the school, look at it, proud to celebrate what? Now, I want to make a point here. This is up on X, Twitter, okay? And when I saw it, I thought, okay, I'll leave a comment. But look at that box there. Who can reply? people the author mentioned can reply. So basically, they're blocking any responses. So this is what I've written here, and this is my best way of saying what I wanted to say. The Church of Ireland, really, all right, so this is Wilson's Hospital School is a Church of Ireland school, okay? After what we saw on the previous slide, okay? Proud to celebrate what exactly? Teaching soul-corrupting transgender ideology to your innocent, trusting Christian students? Confusing their young minds about the role and place of sexuality in a life of faith? Priming them to experiment with and or be subject to perverse physical sexual activities? Christian? I don't think so. Not when you subscribe so openly to the diabolical agenda and persecute those who defend genuine Christian values. And this goes for an awful lot of so-called churches and ethical organizations and human rights bodies that support this nonsense. And we've done a whole video on it. I hope if you need to see it, guys, it's called Sexuality or Satanism or Both. And it's up there. If you can't get it anywhere else, you can get it on Rumble under my name, Integrity Ireland. Okay, Truth Matters. All right. We'll have to bump on here. So, I'm sorry to say. Oh, yeah, there it is. There's the I just mentioned it. Okay. So there's this, the diabolicals are showing us which Lord they serve by corrupting the bodies, minds, and souls of our children through perversion and debauchery. All right. So it's all about spirit, mind, body. Again, the logo on the top right represents the spirit of the divine, the deity, the feminine, and the masculine, all combined into one beautiful, good entity with the emphasis on good. All right. So that's what you're looking for if you want to see it, guys. And I think we're finished now here, almost finished with the Burkes. Here we are on the right-hand side. I managed to find a really miserable picture of Simon Harris. There he is, because that basically is his personality. It's his characters, his driving ethos. That's what that picture sums up. And again, at the top, Micheál Martin, actually, for once, he's actually smiling without looking like he just swallowed the, I don't know, toxic yogurt or something. He usually gets this like weird looking face on him, you know. But anyway, that was the incident in Washington. Again, I think they're very brave. It's as simple as that, guys. I think they're brave. They've got to keep going, because there's no winning in the system, through the system, by the system's rules, except with somebody possibly like Donald Trump, who, as I keep saying, has arrived at the top of the biggest pyramid in the world, the American government, not because he crawled his way up through the corridors of power, scheming and lying and toadying up to psychopathic masters, but actually in the opposite. He's caught the public's attention and admiration, and he seems to be showing us all how you dismantle these diabolical pyramids. So there's some of the Burkes there. And if you want to know their full story, guys, and I better push on now because I've spent a lot of time on this, the Burke broadcast, find it online, guys, and I think you'll get all the information you want. Anyway, there's my little tuppence worth, and I hope it does something to spread the story of the Burkes and get righteous support behind these decent, honourable, dedicated. And yeah, and I'll say one last thing. There's a phenomenon that happens when good people stand up for what's right. There's an indirect and inescapable sense of shame on everybody who doesn't stand up. And a lot of that is what drives the nastiness that's being directed towards the Burkes. It's actually, what's the right word now? Not incompetence is the wrong word. It's the incapacity or the unwillingness of other people who like to think of themselves as good to do the strong and brave actions that the Burkes are doing. And it's like pulling other people down just because they're better than you. You can't beat them, pull them down, talk behind their back, all that sort of stuff. It's cheap, it's mealy-mouthed, and it's petty, and it's disgraceful. They deserve our support. I hope one day to see them in positions of power and authority where they can exercise their principles, similar to what Trump's trying to do in America, the best they can. All right. If you're interested, guys, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. That's one of the books we wrote, Criminality in the Irish Courts and the Absence of the Rule of Law. It exposes 100 senior officials, office holders, judges, Gardaí, lawyers, and everything, and the crimes they've committed. And no one has dared ever come back at us publicly because it's all true. And we have to stop. There could have been 300, 400, 500 people in the book, but of course it would be too expensive to buy then. But all right, big book, guys. If you're interested, please you help us out by purchasing the books that we've produced. All right, so here we go now. Ursula von der Leyen, as she's becoming known, promoting vaccination for 500 million children. She wants to vaccinate 500 million children by 2030. The commentator above has said, if ever there was evil personified. Oh, actually, this is Mr. Bridgen. Unfortunately, I can't read it. Andrew Bridgen, is it? He's an MP anyway in the UK. He said, if ever there was evil personified, this woman is surely it. After all the evidence of the past few years, Ursula wants to vaccinate more children in partnership with Gavi, which is Bill Gates. Yeah. She also wants a full-blown world war with Russia. She is unelected and unaccountable. We're going to see a lot of that here now today. Her husband is a big pharma executive. Absolutely true. Now, there she is, look, sitting next to Klaus Schwab. All right. And if you don't know who these people are, guys, you need to start looking. I'll pull it down to see if we can get. That's, believe it or not, top right is Rishi Sunak. Sorry, his face is blocked out, but you're not missing much. Bottom left, there she is holding hands with Joe Biden. And on the right, that's her snuggling up to Albert Bourla, Pfizer CEO, murderer in chief. And when are we going to see these people arrested and charged? I think it's going to come eventually. If Trump has his way, I think it will eventually happen. But they're embedded, as we say, they're embedded in this diabolical pyramid. And again, just to keep it easy, guys, just throwing this one out there, guys. 3 types of evil. Many of us are in the bottom category, okay? But let's start at the top. Initiative evil, which is conscious, personal, knowing, active, deliberate, pre-planned evil for profit or reward and or for perverse personal satisfaction. Now, these are people who know exactly what they're doing and they continue to do it anyway, and that's why they do it. So that's the worst form of evil in one sense. Secondly, though, you have facilitative evil with limited awareness by people who are trapped in circumstance, by association, obligation, compulsion, occupation, training or duty, also for personal reward. So this is all of the people in the middle ranks, the blue ranks over there, the planning, the administrators, the bureaucrats, who all just say, oh, I'm just doing my job. Yes, but if your job is to facilitate evil, be prepared because you're going to have to answer to someone someday for it, okay? And finally, at the bottom, unwitting evil by circumstance, association, fear, obligation, compulsion, conditioning or ignorance, with or without personal reward. For example, everybody who took the jabs, thinking that they were doing something right, should now be asking themselves. Certainly those who administer them. Oh, by the way, apparently there's been a ruling in the European courts that doctors who issued the injections can now be prosecuted. Not the politicians, not the scientists, not the Albert Bourlas and the von der Leyens who pushed us all into it and threatened us in fear, but doctors, the individual doctors apparently are now open for prosecution if they knowingly gave people. Apparently it's their responsibility to know these things, and most of them were too cowardly to stand up to the big boys. Guys, we've got to pay attention. We have to pay attention, okay? And then, meanwhile, democracy or hypocrisy, you know? There's chaos in Romania when apparently after a visit by Macron, the judges there and you know, this guy, what's his name, Georgescu or something. We've got his name here in a moment. Anyway, he's been banned from running after getting the highest response in the popular vote. And the argument by the people who are banning him, which is the nation's courts and everything, is that there's Russian influence, they think, maybe, could be, without showing any evidence. And even if there was, so what? You know, if the Romanian people have chosen him in majority, it's not democracy if some autocratic figureheads who are supposed to work for the people and respect the Constitution, if they just step in and go, nah, we don't like this guy, so we're just going to, here we go. I'll just read the text on this if I can, guys. When the courts usurp the power of elected officials, has Romania fallen to EU autocracy? Remember, autocracy and democracy do not work together. And actually, nearly all of our political parties act in an autocratic manner once they've got the power. Yeah, the people have been fighting, but isn't enough. The Romanian Constitutional Court has upheld a decision to ban Călin Georgescu. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, sir. A populist and pro-Russian candidate from running in the presidential election scheduled for May. This ruling has sparked widespread protests across Romania, with supporters of Georgescu, including notable political figures, rallying against what they perceive as an infringement on democratic process. Of course it is. The court's decision was final, leaving no further legal recourse for Georgescu. Another one says here, the Romanian court, the EU, are for fascist left dictatorships and oppose freedom for voters to choose their own leaders. Neither can ever claim to be for democracy when they rule as tyrants, abusing the people's free will. Exactly, and not a word of criticism from the European leaders or media. Now, isn't that odd, guys? I hope we're all starting to work out what's going on here, guys. Yeah, and where's Antifa now? Get out there, Antifa, you anti-fascists, and start tackling the real fascists amongst us, all right? These so-called left-wing liberal dictators. That's what they are, have to pump on, guys. We want to get to everything now here today. Meanwhile, in another pretense at democracy, we have... this is George Galloway, is a political commentator and a politician in Scotland. This is a quote he wrote on X. Democracy he's asking the question, is a democracy now? Is the former governor of the Bank of England, with no seat in Parliament, being designated as new Prime Minister of Canada without a single Canadian casting a vote for him, while the runaway leader of the Romanian presidential campaign is banned from standing? This guy is neck deep with the globalists. His name is Mark Carney, okay? He's now the new Prime Minister of Canada. He's stepped in. Trudeau has stepped out as the leader of the Liberal Party. He's stepped in, and he's now just been handed the Premiership of Canada. It's the same sort of nonsense that happened in Ireland, when a third party, Sinn Féin, looked threateningly as if it was going to get the bulk of the vote. The two other parties that are supposed to be in opposition to each other teamed up to squeeze them out and then shared the premiership of the Irish Parliament between them. Just doing deals, internal deals. The people did not elect these people, as TDs, yes, but not as the, so, and there he is on a panel top right. I don't know if you can see this, guys. They're all wearing masks, of course. It was probably during COVID, yeah. And look at his companions, Trudeau, Ursula von der Leyen. And funnily enough, she's not wearing a mask because she's speaking to the microphone. Just as well, I say, that that clever little virus, do you remember how clever it was? It could tell if you were sitting up or standing down, if you were in a group of 6 or a group of 7. And it can even tell here which of the people is using the microphone, and therefore it wouldn't be right for the little microbes to attack her while she's using the microbe. The rest of them are wearing the masks, so they're safe. Are they? They were never safe. Masks were absolutely pointless. Even Fauci admitted that eventually. And guess what? We all fell for it, didn't we? Well, most of us, some of us. Meanwhile, let's stick with this one. We'll keep flying away. Then they've now, I'll just fly through this. Now, there's another one. Diana Sozoakas, I think that's her name. Sozoakas presidential bid. She's been blocked as well, right? And the court just, they're not even pretending to be. No, right? They blocked it. And here's this judge, bottom left. Again, this was off a video. You could see his smug, arrogant, face, knowing they've got the power. All appeals have been banned. So this guy on the right, Georgescu, can't even appeal against the decision to block him to run for the presidency, right? And they've done it now to another woman because they've deemed, oh, well, she's not the type that we want. So what? Who cares? You're tyrants, you're despots, you're autocrats. There's the panel of judges with, I was going to say, a fatso in the middle at the back. Sorry, I'm falling afoul of this myself. I'm getting so frustrated talking about this stuff for years and years and years. You end up turning to, personal insults and everything. Of course, the fact that he's fat has got nothing to do with the fact that he's disreputable and unethical and should never be anywhere near a judge's bench, except unless he's in the dock, And again, comments by commentators there, the EU is out of control. This is tyranny. It is. Another one, the EU is a fascist superstate and needs to be dismantled before it gains too much power. I absolutely agree with that now, guys. This is the ultimate defeat of democracy in the European Union. The European Union equals the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. I don't think there's anyone can argue with that. And we have the cheek to pick on Putin and listen to our leaders trying to paint him out to be a tyrant of some sorts when they're at this themselves. And then Viktor Orban, isn't he, the Prime Minister of Hungary, thank God, also is putting his foot down. And he said he's going to rid his country of those he claims work for the interests of foreign powers, saying his right-wing government, of course it's right-wing, will eliminate a global shadow army serving the European Union and a liberal American empire. Well, Trump's having to go at them out there as well. So between them all, we might actually see some real changes. And then he says at the bottom, after today's gathering comes the Easter cleaning. The bugs have overwintered, Orban said. We will dismantle the financial machine that has used corrupt dollars to buy politicians, judges, journalists, pseudo-NGOs, and political activists. We will eliminate the entire shadow army. And this, of course, a lot of that money came from where? Came from US aid, okay, under the Biden administration and the Obama administrations. Guys, pay attention, please, what's going on. Right, talking about bugs, creatures that crawl out from under the proverbial stones. Here we have Klaus Schwab, top left, Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO, top right, Bill Gates, bottom left, and George Soros, okay? What's the point we're making here? Well, isn't this interesting? It said the comment is, Fink is certainly one of the most dangerous and narcissistic men on planet Earth, but I'm not so sure he's the absolute worst of the globalists. What do you think? Okay, observation from somebody I've already explained to you many times, that if you're the top of one of these international corporations, the high likelihood is you are a cast iron sociopath or psychopath. It's been explained many, many times. I'll keep doing so as long as people need to hear it. But look at this interesting point on the right. The two assassins, would-be assassins of President Trump, were both featured in BlackRock promotional videos. What an interesting, and very disturbing coincidence. Now, on to the crustaceans that we mentioned at the beginning, okay? Where are we now? Okay, we've got to move a bit faster. Beware of insect protein bars. Why? Because, bottom left, whole buffalo powder is not powder made out of whole buffaloes. It's an unpronounceable thing there. We'll get to in a minute that... Well, anyway, I can't read it very clearly from the screen. It's too small here. But basically, it's it's powder from ground up insects, and I'll come to that in a second. How are they going to sell it to us? Well, they get people like Nicole Kidman up there eating mealworms and delicious with a little glass of Chardonnay. There's, what's her name? Forgotten her name. Famous actress, Angelina Jolie, sorry. Eating a large spider with her children, showing how to cook them and eat them and everything. No, thank you very much. Maybe if we had beaks, I'd consider that as an option. But anyway, what is this whole buffalo powder, which is not mentioned, by the way? There's no mention anywhere. Apparently, somebody was giving out these protein bars in Davos, Switzerland, of all places. They had a cartload or a wagon load of them and was handing them out for free. People thinking they were getting protein bars, nutrition protein bars, which technically I suppose they are, because there's all this protein, except it's insects. And nobody was telling them what you're eating is actually ground up insects. And that's where the World Economic Forum is usually head, by the way, Davos. So what is this? Right, let's see if I can pronounce it for you. I tried it earlier, Adalpa Pro whole buffalo powder. And look at that, the way they've spelled insect fiber source. All right. What is it? Adalpo Pro. That's what you'll see on the label or on the package, right? They're using it for seasoning for baby's milk. Look at this. Yeah. To put in your coffee. You wouldn't even know you're doing it, guys. Okay. Let's see what the next one is. Oh, yeah. Right. So what is Adalpa Pro? Yeah. And then YNSECT. Yeah. It's Alphidobius diaperneus. All right. I'm not going to keep saying that. I'll just say AD. Okay. Because it's a mouthful. All right. All right. It's a species of beetle in the family Tenebriondia. Do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to take the scientists who think up all of these unpronounceable words and give them a good spanking and say, just pick more simple words that we can use. Why does everything have to be in, 8-syllable Latin, So they're also known as the darkling beetles. It is known commonly as the lesser mealworm and the litter beetle. Litter? Okay, this is what you're eating, folks. It has a cosmopolitan distribution occurring nearly worldwide. It's known widely as a pest insect of stored food grain products such as flour and of poultry, etc., etc. All right, you can see the rest of this, shiny black or brown, all the rest of it, okay? What else do we know about this? Oh, by the way, there are fact checkers out there trying to dispute these facts, all right? I'm showing you the facts. This is what it looks like close up. Delicious, eh? That's the mealworm in a wood. It's like burrowing through a wood there on the bottom right. But why is this beetle such a threat to poultry? Now, I've looked at it just in isolation. Now, this is not talking about it as a food source. This is looking in isolation. Why is it such a threat to poultry? The main reason is that it can carry and transmit a wide range of diseases, both to chickens and humans. Some of these diseases include salmonella, avian influenza, coccidiosis, and botulism. I don't know if I got that right either. Sorry, guys. A challenging day verbally today. And finally, when chickens eat the beetles or their larvae, they can ingest harmful bacteria, viruses, or parasites. These pathogens can cause infections, diarrhea, weight loss, reduced egg production, and even death in poultry. In some cases, they can also infect humans who consume contaminated eggs or meat. Clear, guys? Yeah? Maybe if we all grew beaks and flapped around in wooden cages and scuffed around in litter, and maybe then it would be okay to eat these things. I don't like the idea that it's been forced on us surreptitiously without proper advertising. And again, all the tricks of the trade, it's all about making money and deceiving us. Now, we're on to chemtrails, guys. Now, very quickly, I'm watching the time here. Right, so we're at, contrail or chemtrail. Now, a good friend of mine in the pro-justice movement contacted me recently. We recently went on a trip to Japan to visit my wife's relatives. That aside, a friend of mine, someone I know, sent me this photograph. He took it one afternoon, and he said, look, I know you were talking about this recently, Stephen, because my argument was, well, it's stupid for the authorities to be spraying us with stuff because they live in the same world. That sort of makes sense to me. Like, it's a pretty strong argument to say, no, surely this couldn't be true. This couldn't be them, the diabolical spraying the atmosphere with chemicals that are going to poison our food source or whatever, or even alter the weather or whatever. It just doesn't seem to make sense because they're living in the same world. And unless they're traveling around with big, broad-beamed tin foil hats themselves to stop this stuff falling on them, then it seems counterintuitive that, authorities of any sort would be ordering the spraying of populations, and polluting the skies like this. But I looked into it now because this has been troubling me for a while. Is it true or isn't it true? And lo and behold, of course, it went to all the fact-checking websites, okay? So the point I want to show you here first is this, right? That circled is what most people would call a contrail. It appears behind jets at high altitude and disappears after a few seconds, all right? Ice crystals forming, the heat coming out of the engine and stuff like that, right? and then it disappears. The other things that are being called chemtrails, which the fact checkers and the authorities would have us believe, oh no, they are also contrails. You're getting mixed up, you know. But that they stick around all day. They fatten up, they grow big, and they spread out all over the sky. All right, I've seen them many times myself. So there's plenty of evidence up there. So what did I do? I went on this website. Please pay attention to this, guys. This is called Flight Radar 24. You can find it yourself. You can either subscribe to it or you can get a few free hits. All right. But that, for example, looking over the Middle East, that gives you an idea. All of those planes are moving when you're looking at the live screen. Okay. And you can track them. All right. Don't worry about that red line down there. I was just making took a screenshot of, I'm doing some investigation of my own. Okay. So what happens is I found that particular airplane over the north of Greece, right down over here, right? So there it is circled, okay? Now the square above it to the right, you'll see it says NA. What's this? NA, not applicable. There's no information about it. So that plane, whatever it was, right? And you can see another one over on the left there, and you see the one there, the little red one with TUII. That's the Turkish Airlines, I believe, flight. So that's what's supposed to come up. You're supposed to be able to identify it, okay? But in this particular case, that specific aircraft, look what it turns out. It turns out that there's no registration. It's a Boeing, you know that, it's a Poseidon, Boeing P-8 Poseidon. It's a military or a government, yeah? You don't even know what country it belongs to, nothing. All we know is that there's this great big trail coming out behind it, okay? And an otherwise open sky. Speed, knots, and everything. Now, I also tracked its journey, and I don't think I'll put it in today. I don't think I've got it in here today. But you can see down the bottom right, its journey is marked in the blue and the purple, depending on the altitude it's running at. Basically, this plane took off in Sicily, in this Italian Air Force base in Sicily, which is also a U.S. Naval Air Station, okay? It looks like it's a United States naval airplane. It took off over Sicily, came in across Albania, I believe, and went right up to the Black Sea and went out into what appears to be Russian airspace, where it disappears off the tracking system. You just see a dotted line, disappears. And then an hour or something later, it comes back and heads back. That's where we picked it up. We picked it up. The trail was clearly visible in the sky. Your man took videos of it. I just took a screenshot there, okay? So now we know that it's a U.S. military aircraft with this huge contrail coming out the back of it inexplicably. Now, here's another video. I suggest that you go and find that, guys. Chemtrail sprayer. Oh, it says 100% proof, filmed up close. What happens is there's another, believe it or not, it's a U.S. military aircraft again, flying behind this big jetliner. The jetliner apparently doesn't know. When I say doesn't know, they doesn't realize that they're there. They're talking, you see, the pilots talking to each other, the two pilots in the military aircraft. And they say something like, he doesn't realize we're here. If we were beneath him, we'd get dumped. All that stuff would be dumped on us. But you see, I put in the second shot there on the right, where there's nothing coming out of it. All right. These are not contrails. If they were contrails, they'd be consistent and persistent, continuous, right? They might peter in and out at different altitudes or in extremely different temperatures, but it would be a gradual petering out. You know what I mean? It wouldn't just switch on and off instantaneously. Why is that important? Because according to the fact checkers, it's just altitude, humidity, temperature, biometric pressure. There's nothing to see here, folks, really, right? Now, this is you go in and look at all the fact checkers. False, that's ridiculous, that's nonsense. What are they doing? They're covering up the lies of the establishment. Now, I haven't finished yet, guys, because I'm going to prove this to you, right? So there's fact checkers, right? Different, they say it's a different, differing length, persistence, video does not show an aircraft spraying massive, whatever, dumping massive stuff, The footage, which was filmed from another aircraft, shows a passenger plane, right? It says, claims that a video posted on Facebook shows a massive stream of chemicals emerging from the back of a passenger plane are false. Oh, are they really? So this is full fact. Another one sponsored by the George Soros crowd, I believe, or it might be the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or Bill Gates Foundation, one or the other, right? Facts or lies, fact check. So the point I'm trying to make again, guys, is we've got to be discerning. We can't just accept what we hear or see on face value, because I believe I've got the answer to this for you now in a second. Because the next slide, oh yes, first of all, we find out that there is actually a very well documented history of secret population spraying, right? And again, please go and look at these websites. We're down to 5 minutes, so I'll have to scoop through the last few here, guys. So please have a look at these websites, you know, top 10 discoveries the government hid from the public. Just type that into Google, see what comes up, all right? But in 1950, the US Navy carried out Operation Sea Spray by spraying bacteria 2 miles off the coast of San Francisco to study how a city of its size would respond to bioweapon attacks. The Navy believed that blah, 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 right? That's what they were using, cadmium sulfide. And then here, how governments experiment on people. This is the University of Kent, all right? Look at their website, and they're, you know, how the government may have secretly used you and thousands more in Cold War chemical and biological warfare tests. You're being used like guinea pigs, friends, and you don't even know it, okay? Next, now here is perfect. Now again, this is a video. I'm not playing, and I'm only doing stills for the time being, guys. Please look at geoengineeringwatch.org. This is a pilot who is clearly troubled by what he's doing, and as he flies across the sky, he switches the chemtrails on and off. They're not contrails; they're chemtrails. He switches them on and off, almost like an S.O.S. so that anybody watching the sky can absolutely see this can't possibly be a contrail. A contrail could not break up like that, guys, not unless the plane physically disappeared and reappeared in time and space. It's just not possible. There's your proof, my friends, all right? Please, let's put the argument to bed, all right? Now, fact check, oh, here we go. I said fact check this, fact checkers, and while you're at it, why don't you fact check your own funding? All right, now, unfortunately, it slipped down again. It does that, unfortunately. All right, and what have we got here? Chemtrails, the list of patents for stratospheric aerial spraying, right? Geoengineering Watch, extensive list of patents. How many? I believe there's about 10 pages of these, guys. Process for controlling weather, Google patents. Why are they patenting? Why are engineers and scientists and government departments all registering patents for equipment that can do the chemtrail thing? If it doesn't exist, huh? To me, this is just about as solid a proof, and just to hit home the power. These are the funders down here, the guys BlackRock and George Soros, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab and co. These are the guys who are, you know, funding a lot of these programs. Okay, and there we are. Just to show you, that's just the top half of the first page. I believe there were 6 or 10 pages worth. If I pull this up for you a little bit bigger, you can see this only goes from 1920 to 1950. There are scores and scores more of them, guys. Again, just freeze the screen, type that into your Google search engine, and away you go and get all the evidence. So that's it for today, guys. Just about squeezed it in. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you again for the support. Those are the platforms where we are. And finally, I think I have one more slide to show you. Yes, Truth Matters. That's another title that we're using to cover some of our materials. One by one together, we can make a difference. That's slipped down again. And happy Paddy's Day all over again, guys. And looking forward to speaking to you again next week. One of these days, I will actually get it done on the Sunday. S.O.S. Stephen on Sundays. Thank you, and God bless. And please, everybody, pay attention and don't be taken for fools. Amen.